Once upon a time, in a kingdom far, far away, there lived a king and queen who were very fond of dancing. They loved to dance every night after their royal ball, but they had no children, and so they decided to adopt a few. One day, a royal nanny was sent to an orphanage to pick up 12 beautiful young princesses who would be perfect for the king and queen. The princesses were brought to the palace, and the king and queen were overjoyed. They welcomed the princesses with open arms and made sure that they were comfortable and happy in their new home. As the years passed, the princesses grew up to be beautiful young ladies. They were kind, compassionate, and intelligent, but most of all, they loved to dance. Every night after dinner, the princesses would put on their dancing shoes and dance in the great hall. They would twirl and leap, and their laughter would echo through the castle. However, there was a problem. The princesses were always losing one shoe during their nightly dances. At first, it was just one shoe, but then it became two, then three, and soon they were losing a shoe every night. The king and queen were very worried. They couldn't bear the thought of their precious daughters losing their beautiful shoes. So they decided to do something about it. They announced to the kingdom that whoever finds the princess's lost shoe would be handsomely rewarded. But shoe after shoe was lost, and no one could solve the mystery. The king and queen were at their wits' end. They didn't know what to do. Then one day a young man came to the palace. He was tall and handsome, with a kind face and gentle eyes. He told the king and queen that he had heard about their problem and he wanted to help. The young man was a cobbler by trade, and he had an idea. He would make 12 beautiful pairs of shoes for the princesses. And then they would dance all night long without losing a single shoe. The king and queen were so grateful for the young man's offer. They thanked him and accepted his gift. When the young man presented the shoes to the princesses, they were in awe. They were the most beautiful shoes they had ever seen. And best of all, they fit perfectly. That night, the princesses put on the new shoes and danced in the great hall. They twirled and leaped, and their laughter echoed through the castle, and not one shoe was lost. The princesses were so happy. They thanked the young man for his help, and the young man was so pleased that he had been able to help them. But then something magical happened. As the princesses were dancing, they began to float. At first, it was just a slight float. Then they were floating higher and higher. Soon they were floating around the room, and the young man was so surprised. When the music stopped, the princesses landed back on the ground. They looked at each other in amazement. They had never flown before. The young man was also amazed. He couldn't believe what he had just seen. Then one of the princesses spoke. She told the young man that they were magical princesses, and when they danced, their magic was activated. They could fly, become invisible, and even talk to animals. The young man was stunned. He couldn't believe that he had been dancing with princesses all this time and not known. The princesses then told the young man that he was the only person in the kingdom who knew their secret, and they asked him to keep it safe. The young man promised to do so, and then the princesses floated up to the ceiling and disappeared from sight. The young man stood there for a moment, wondering what he had just experienced. Then he smiled. He knew that he would never forget this night. From that day on, the young man and the princesses continued to dance together every night. They would dance until the sun came up, and then they would rest until the next night. And so the magical fairy tale of the 12 dancing princesses continued.